Hey everyone, Luke here, and we're talking about the Promised Neverland today. Now, before I do that, just want to say a couple of things. That I know the next episode of Dr. Stone, episode 21, is coming out this week, which means we'll have the next What's the Difference coming out the week after. And because I've only got like Mondays to really talk about it, I mean, I might do it on Tuesdays or possibly Wednesdays. I don't know yet, but it'll probably be 2 videos on Mondays from now on, right through until Christmas, because that's basically my schedule getting taken up by work and everything like that. So hopefully I'll be able to get the reviews out on Mondays, and hopefully the What's the Difference videos, because like I said, after Dr. Stone, we've got to go and watch We Never Learn, because season 2's out at the moment, but because I'm doing Dr. Stone, can't talk about that. But anyway, that's besides the point. So let's just dive in to this chapter, which the Jesus symbolism with Musica basically just goes through the roof. Alright, so this will be chapter 158, titled The Meaning of My Life. Now, this is obviously a reference to Musica and the fact that she's so unique amongst all the other demons in the world. In fact, I think she's the only demon of her kind to actually be around in this world and not having to eat a single human at all. But yeah, is able to pass on her blood so that the demons can actually maintain their humanoid forms. And again, like I said in the last chapter, just the Jesus symbol, or no, I think it was a couple of chapters before. A couple of chapters before of Musica, of the symbolism of her being like, maybe being the daughter of the demon god, like the little demon god thing, basically the equivalent to Truth in this series, and how she came down to earth to purify the sins of the demons or something like that. And this chapter, I can't be the only one who sees it, of just the fact that there's just so much Jesus symbolism with Musica in that regard. But anyway, we'll talk more about that as we dive right into the chapter. So the chapter starts off fittingly so with like a sort of recap on Musica's life, told from her perspective, as it reads: From the time I was born, I knew I was different. My body didn't change no matter what I ate. And I don't need to eat humans to preserve my mind and humanoid form. And I was called a miracle child. Now, if we turn to John chapter 24, verse 3, we shall discuss the nature of the lives of Songju and how his family just ruled over the land and everything like that. I'm sorry, I had to do something like that, because again, this is so poignant. It doesn't even have to be Jesus. It could be any god, and just religion, just praising her as just like this Christ figure, as it's demonstrated right here, like on the panel when it goes from the when it says, I was a miracle child. We have her basically on a podium, like I believe, like just standing like on like a pedestal with just like people just like demons just worshiping them, like we're not worthy. I get fully emphasizing the notion of Jesus just being like, oh, our saviour has come to save us and everything. And the next panel certainly like just gets along with that statement of where it goes, at the time I was hunted for this, believed to be another kind of cow. And again, this is another reference to the, I'm sorry, that was my phone just then, ignore that, but I'm in the middle of something, so I can't basically turn that off, so I've got to keep going. But anyway, she goes, at the time I was hunted for this, believed to be another kind of cattle. We see her just being hunted by these other demons. And again, this is a reference to the fact that in one of the biblical stories, you had the Pharaoh discovering the birth of Jesus, and it's like, I want to meet this miracle child, and basically like that. And also as well, guys, there's a fly buzzing around, so please just ignore that as well. But I have to keep going on with this. As she continues to go on and say, but I was so happy when I could use my gift to help the poor, the starving. Again, obviously a reference to the fact how Jesus in the stories of the Bible will be able to cure leprosy in the same way that she's being able to cure the poor and the starving by giving her blood. Basically, this is take this and drink this, for it is my blood. Do this in memory of me. And whether or not this is what they're actually going with, the fact Musica being the daughter of the demon god, is true or not, I just love the symbolism of her, of just like this miracle, like demon Christ figure coming to this world and being like accepting of everyone around them, like everyone, not just the demons but also the humans as well. It's like, they're all my friends, you're all my people, and you all and I will do my best to make your lives as better as they could possibly can. Musica continues on to tell her story, and she goes, but then they killed everyone. Obviously a reference to the royal family in the 5 regiment houses, and how she was the only one left, and we see her just like in like this caged up prison sort of thing, and that's possibly a reference to when we found out Musica was the cursed blood, and we saw her in that cage at the end of one of the chapters when Norman was explaining who she actually was. So that's probably a reference to what was going on here. And she continues on to say, as the sole survivor, I've been hiding for 700 years. And we see Songju and like his demon horse thing basically coming in contact with her and basically say, come with me and I will help you as long as you help me as well. So that pretty much proves my theory of that fact that Songju knew what was saw what was going on with the demon, with the 5 regiment house and the royal family, and didn't agree with it, and went into hiding, and he took Musica with him in order to protect her as well. She continues on to say, I wonder why I'm different from the others. Am I special? Is this heresy? What am I? Why do I exist? For what reason am I alive? As we see her just handing out blood to this other sick demon and just trying to make her a better place. And I feel like that's the reason that she's alive. She's been brought down to as the daughter of the demon god to basically help reform the demon race into a much more better race, where they don't have to be these minus destructive monsters. I don't know what her purpose is, but I'm still hammering on that theory that she is the daughter of the demon god. As Musica continues on, she asks herself, do I have the right to be alive? And to that I can say, yes, you do. Everyone has the right to be alive. I mean, even people that you would perceive as being horrible, nasty people, they still have a right to be alive. They still have a right to have their lives and how they want to live their lives, even if others don't agree with them. And sometimes even the bad people that make you think like I shouldn't be alive still can make positive things happen in that regard. I mean, take me for example. 2 years ago, when I had a couple of friends who I thought were really close friends, like family without being family, and how they basically just backstabbed me and betrayed me and nearly made me homeless. I'm still glad I went through that. I'm still glad they did that, because then it allowed me to see who my true family was, and able to come back to them rather than being away from them. And even though I feel bad that I went through that, I'm still glad as well that I went through that. So yeah, to answer that question, do I have the right to be alive? Yes, you do. And she continues on as we move back into the moment when Songju was fighting his sister, the queen, and she goes, "This is the queen who took everything from me, my parents, my friends. I had so much I wanted to tell her, a whole mountain of issues to settle, and yet all I can think when I look at her is, you poor thing." And that's a very realistic situation I think we can all be in the fact that you'll probably have someone who's done these horrible, despicable things to you, and you just have so much to say to them, but when you see them in a state that it's like, wow, you're nothing more than a coward, then it's like, what's the point of even saying that? There's no point in saying that. It's not going to make anything better. And just seeing them in that state, it's like, that's more pathetic than anything that anyone could ever say. And it's very interesting, the kind of statement that we get here from Musica about the Queen, in the sense that that could be seen as a parallel between between Musica and Emma, in the sense that in the sense how Emma will probably through Peter Atari and Isabella, in the sense that there were two people who took everything from her, like her parent, which was Peter Vittori, taken away taken away Isabella or something like that, but also her friends, referring to the other orphans as well, like including Connie, Phil, Norman at the time, and and Emma probably still had so many things that she wanted to tell Isabella, and a whole mountain of issues, and yet when all she could do is look at Isabella and think like, oh, you poor thing, as in like, mother, you're poor in this situation, and I sort of can kind of sympathise with you in some regard, but at the same time you did so many horrible, despicable things that I don't think I can sympathise with you, and I feel like, and if that's what the case that they're going here, showing like a parallel between Musica and Emma, then I think that's really clever, the way they brought that, or maybe it's just me over analysing everything in that situation. But I also love how Musica, despite everything, she still sympathises with the Queen, because what's about to happen to the Queen is something I did not expect. As the Queen is basically as Musica by her grasp, Musica basically just straight up asks, how come you are so terribly starved? And this actually gets the Queen's attention. It's like, what are you talking about? Musica goes on to say, you who are richer than anyone, who can have anything you want. But before Musica can even finish what she's about to say, Sonju goes in and starts to actually strike at the Queen, and the Queen actually is able to just dodge back at incredible force. Like, so as soon as Sonju's like going to attack the Queen with his staff and just slash at her, she's like just zigzagging back at an alarming rate. But Musica's reassuring him that it's all right in this situation, that he doesn't have to worry about her in this situation, and this honestly confuses Sonju as well as the Queen as well, in regards to what Musica's actually saying. As the Queen goes on to say, and here I was expecting sense from you. Me? Starving? Are you speaking seriously? And Musica just straight up says, yes, you are starving. Now, at first glance, I thought this meant like, oh, she's still just like needs hunger to keep going on, because she's just absorbed so many souls that she just has to keep on going in order to feed those souls. But as it turns out, that might not actually be the case, or maybe it might actually be the case and I've just misinterpreted it. Musica goes on to state that you are indeed in starvation. No matter how much you eat, how much you get, how far you climb, you can never be satisfied. Okay, so I feel like, yeah, she has, the Queen has consumed so many souls that she can never satisfy each of those souls that she's actually consumed as well, because I believe, because what we're about to see is that the souls that she has consumed, they basically still have their own conscience as well, and they all desire the hunger, but the hunger to actually get revenge on the Queen for actually killing them. And the way Musica says it here, no matter how much you eat, no matter how much you get, you can never, how far you climb, you can never be satisfied, and she's in constant starvation, actually reminds me of the Master from Doctor Who, in one of the, let's just say, not very good finales to a Doctor Who, to a Final Doctor, where after the Master was sort of blown up, when he was the John Sim Master in Doctor Who, he constantly just had this constant state of hunger, like, I'm so starving, I need to constantly be in, but no matter how much he ate, he was still constantly starving, and it's no different from here, how when the Queen was defeated the first time, she regenerated, and after regenerating herself, she's in constant starvation, and no matter what, it cannot no matter how much she consumes, she just cannot get over the fact that she's still hungry. And as Musica goes on to say, it's heartbreaking. I am so sad for you. What is it that you really desire? What is it that you fear so much? If only you could ever feel satisfaction, your future would have been much different. But you were a prisoner of your instable desires. You've forgotten how to respect God. you're overindulgent in taking life, and you haven't even noticed that all you've managed to do is provoke your own ruin. Okay, so as being in that constant starvation, constant hunger, it might be a metaphor for the fact that she constantly has to be consuming power in order to maintain her godlike status, while also forgetting the demon god in of itself, and the fact that they're supposed to be feeding to please the demon god, and she actually forgot about that. She got consumed by her own power and the thought that they were better than everyone else. They were higher beings, and she had this complete god complex. It made her feel like, yeah, that god, yeah, forget about him. It's all about me now. And she sealed her own downfall by doing that, by actually thinking that if she consumed everyone around her and they would be her subjects, she would become this nigh immortal being. Where in fact that she's more mortal than anyone else. Now, one thing I want to say before we continue is that because next year we're getting Promised Neverland Season 2, the anime, which, for those of you who don't know, that I feel like that's probably going to take us from When They Escape right through to the end of Goldie Pond, which, if that's the case, that wouldn't surprise me at all. Like, we just get Season 2 right before the time skip, and then hopefully Season 3 can actually cap off the series, like actually do the whole of the final arc. Like, Season 3 is the final arc. If that's the case, then that wouldn't surprise me. Like, we get 3 series which actually cover the entire series, and I will be doing What's the Difference in that sense when we get to it. It's not been announced yet when the series is actually going to air, but I'm thinking somewhere around July time, sort of like around that time, July right through to December, and we get from the escape from Gracefield right through to the ending of the Goldie Pond arc, just before the time skip, after the fight with Lewis. So maybe that's where they're gonna end it, because the fight with Lewis would make a great climax for Season 2 if that's the case. Because really, if they just did from When They Escaped Gracefield House right through and just did it at the same rate, then there probably wouldn't be a climax for Season 2. So I feel like they need to do the fight with Lewis to be the climax of Series 2. But anyway, the point I was trying to make here was that when we get to Songju and Musica, I really hope that that Musica is just like this calm, soothing, but also kind of like you're unsure of whether or not you can trust her voice. And Songju has more of like a gruff exterior, but actually still has a pleasant side to him. So I'm sort of like thinking like maybe those are the voices that they'll actually go with Songju and Musica when we get to it. And this would really help if they actually did get this far with the anime, this moment because I feel like she has just this calm, soothing nature, but also has a kind of like more like uneasy side to her in some of the statements that she's actually making at this point to the Queen herself. The Queen goes on to state, in response to Musica's questions, "Ludicrous, desire is the greatest virtue. It is what moves all to strive on. It is the power that animates everything, that emits everything. So instable desires only means boundless power. Respect God, life, I bow to no one." Yeah, like I said before, she's gotten so used to having this big God complex that she's basically disregarded the notions of God that they're supposed to be actually serving. And she probably had this in the back of her mind all this time, and thinking like, if I can just get in power and get enough subjects following, maybe I can get to the status of becoming a god myself. But of course, in this world there's only one god, and he probably didn't like this. So maybe that's what the god saw. Again, like I said, Musica is very much like the Jesus of this world. Like, he saw just how the royal family was becoming, and how he was probably like, the royal family, they're trying to overthrow them. They're trying to go to the next level and become gods. I have to do something about this. And he probably sent Musica down. Like, he gave birth to Musica and sent her down. And it's like, right, your task is to like purge the world of this curse, which is the royal family, and prevent them from actually ever attaining this god status. And again, And again, this is her downfall because she's gone so used to that god complex that she's forgotten herself that she's mortal in of herself and she can actually be killed, whereas the god probably can't. And this is going to be further pushed when we see what the Queen is actually stating here. From the time I was born, I knew I was different. I am truly special. No one is like me. There is nothing in this world that I fear. And you think I'll ruin myself? You make me laugh. Now, that statement where she says, from the time I was born, I knew I was different. I am truly special. No one is like me. That's pretty much exactly what Musica said at the beginning of the chapter. Like, from the time she was born, she was completely different from anyone else. She was like a one-of-a-kind demon, but she actually had trouble finding her way in the world and finding out what purpose she had. And she tried to fill that purpose of being like kind to people and being like, here's my blood, take it, drink it. You won't worry about having to degenerate even if you're not eating human meat. Whereas the Queen saw that as like an ego boost to her. It's like, I was different. I was born into this family. I am gonna be the ruler of this world. Yeah, I am different. I am special. So I can basically do what I want. So what have I got to fear? And will I ruin myself? No, I won't, because I am the Queen. I am better than everyone. There's no one like me. I am special. I am truly special, and no one can basically touch me in this regard. So yeah, I'm going to ruin myself. That would probably make someone with that much of an egocentric boost to their personality. That would probably make them laugh. And at the end of the day, it's kind of ironic here of the fact that the Queen, who thought that she was better than everyone else, was no better than anyone else, though, being that thought she could achieve the status of a god and become immortal, died immortal like anyone else, as emphasised here when Musica goes, no, you've already ruined yourself. See, you're already dead. And the Queen is just not listening to any of this. She's like, enough of this babble! You can all whine in your death! And as the Queen goes to strike Musica, and someone just trying to get to Musica, we just get this guys of just like explosion of that, like the sticky something. Maybe it's supposed to be blood, but given what is said in the last chapter, it's probably just like the sticky white sauce that's just like exploding out the back of the Queen as she's trying to attack Songju and Musica, and everyone's like, what's going on? What's going on here? What's going on here? And the Queen's like, what? As we see all of these faces of just like these faces just like molding onto her arm. So it's kind of like you get the big old explosion, just like what's, and then you just get the face like, what's happening to me? I'm sorry, guys. I'm just getting into it, so that's why I'm why I'm panting. And we see more faces just like consuming her back, just like this, like. And it kind of reminds me of when Aizen was sealed in Bleach. It's like he thought that he had achieved the status of a god. Well, basically he did at that point, and he thought he could actually kill Ichigo, but the seal started to take place. It was like, what's happening to me? And he was just like, I wanted to be a god and everything like that. That's basically what the happening to the Queen is. It's like, enough of this. You can whine about this in death. What's happening to me? And everyone's looking shocked and like, what is going on? We've never seen anything like this. Musica confirms like, you ate too much. Your body cells are long past their minutes. In the end, a second core didn't give you any special powers. You ingested a mass amount of corpses and toxins. It was too much to process in one go. And when you lost your first core, you were thrown into a frantic state of near death. When you expelled your food whole from yourself, it meant that your body was already unable to consume them fully. So when her first core was destroyed, and she was trying to get all those corpses back together so that she could actually go through a metamorphosis, her body just couldn't withstand the pressure of just having all of those souls and corpses just be consumed all at once. And it basically is like, yeah, we're not going to do this. We're not going to reject you. And it basically means that she was unable to actually consume the souls. So basically, even though she consumed the souls, the Queen, they still had had their own conscience and they were still inside her. And yeah, and I feel like this is probably the one of the few times in a manga that I have seen personally where a villain has met their end by overeating, basically. Because that's basically what she did. Because that's basically what she did. She's like, oh, I'm going to consume everything. I'm going to consume everything. I'm going to keep eating. I'm going to keep eating. I'll never be... I'll just constantly starving. And it's like, oh, I've eaten too much. That's basically what it is here. Yeah, the queen is basically being her end by overeating, which is kind of an ironic statement. Like, these demons who constantly need to keep eating to survive, the one time when they were basically consuming other souls in order to maintain their humanoid forms, the one time when that actually happens at an alarming rate, it becomes the end for them. As the Queen is feeling the full weight of her ramifications, we get various voices going, damn you, Queen, it hurts, help, Mama! Your Highness, I beg you mercy. Your Highness, repugnant, help, I don't want to die, how dare you, Mother, I'm afraid. And and the Queen's like, stop, because she's hearing all the memories of everyone around her, every corpse that she's consumed. At this point, she's hearing all the memories come at her, clouding her all at once, and she's like, stop these memories, their identities, they're overflowing her. She probably gets a massive headache from all of this, and we're cut into the past where we see Musica's family now. Whether or not this is actually in the same vein of the fact that a demon gave birth to Musica, but she's actually the daughter of God in the same way, like the whole Jesus story, how Jesus had a mother who gave birth to him, but his father was God himself. I don't know if that's the case here, but it seems like this is probably Musica's family on this earth that was tasked by the gods to actually give birth to her in that regard. They go on to say, ain't you lucky, Musica? You get to be by yourself always. And we see a really old demon, like he's probably around the same age as Giron it was in the current storyline. We see him going, demons can become anyone, we are therefore no one. We feed the hunger, but degenerates too. It's terrifying. Even a long life may be enough to make one lose it all. And she's confused by the statement, but I think she actually gets it at this point, because the Queen lived a long life in of herself as well, probably around being born just as the promise was starting to be initiated. And it's like the Queen lived so long alive, and she in the end ended up losing it all. And I love like this old demon saying demons can become anyone. We are therefore no one. That's very, very interesting, and it's and it might be a reference to what the mentor was saying in the last chapter of Songju. Like, the whole life in this world is connected, and we are all one, and we're all servants of the God himself. They continue on to state the boundaries of your identity. What is your sense of self? Who do you want to become? So basically saying, like, look, no matter what happens in life, we all start off as a blank slate, and it's up to you to decide what you actually become in the end. And we get another flashback from Musica's perspective about her saying, I thought so much about the meaning of my life, about why I was born into this world, 700 years thinking, and when I met these human children, I finally came to understand. We get a flashback of her and Emma basically just sitting down and talking, like basically like how friends would talk about families, and saying like, hey, here's my family, when they were basically being protected by Songju and Musica during their escape to find the shelter before they met Yugo in that regard. And then she goes on to say, long ago we sealed a promise. We broke this land apart from the human world. I was born in order to change the demons, and now is the time we change this demon world. So I think from Musica's perspective, it's the sense like, no, the whole nature of our existence was probably to become allies of the humans rather than fighting them, but at the same time not taking away from our nature of our nature as demons of as demons of ourselves, and letting us become become corrupt in the same way that humans can be corrupt, and it's probably her sense of like, right, I need to change this, I need to make this world a better place for all those demons and also possibly for the humans as well. That's probably what I'm getting at here from her statement here, where it's like, we broke this land apart from the human world. So again, she was probably like, no, we shouldn't have broken off from the humans. We should have worked together to come up with a compromise rather than actually just straight up splitting off from each other. Because I feel like in her eyes, humans and demons are meant to actually coexist with each other. And if you think about it, it's pretty much the same thing that Emma has, so maybe that's possibly why Emma and Musica connected so much, in the sense that they saw what the other wanted in this world and how they were going to go about changing it. As the Demon Queen just basically just like explodes with faces, and she's going, stop it, We get cameos from Gillen, Dozer, Bayon, Michelle, and Chrome. Although here, where it says Chrome, it's spelled Cron, which I thought it was spelled K, but that's a minor nitpick that I just noticed there, and I just love it when we get to see cameos from old characters that we haven't seen in a while, even villains in that regard, or characters that we don't really know anything about. Like with Michelle, we don't know much about her. All we know is that she was one of the kids that basically was taken away from the farms. I think it was Gracefield House that she was taken away from, but it was not. But still, what I would have liked to hear is that if it was actually Monica, like Theo's brother, that was actually killed in the Battle of Goldie Pond, the first Battle of Goldie Pond. It would have been nice if it was actually her that we actually saw. But that's besides the point. As the Queen is sighing, she questions, "I am who?" And she's like, "I am you. I don't know who I am. I really don't know." She's and Musica confirms like what is actually happening. She goes on to say, "The lives you hate are now devouring you," as we get looks of anger, shock, and surprise from Emma, Ray, Norman, and Songju, and we see just the Queen just melting away into just like this big pile of mush, as Songju just stares up and is like, "Goodbye, Your Majesty, Queen Legula Farley," as we get the caption going, "Her boundless appetite fueled the fire that burns her body down," and that's where the chapter ends. Okay, so not the most fulfilling chapter, but we basically got a lot about who Musica could actually be, and we got like the revelation of like how the Queen was going to be defeated, which, let's be honest, we knew that the Queen wasn't going to be defeated in a straight up fight because she was too OP in that regard. Now, what I love about this is that it wasn't a Deus Ex Machina in that regard, because I've seen other villains in other medium actually end this way. Like, they just consume so much power that it just ends up being their downfall. Not in the same way that Grammy did in Bleach, where he could imagine anything into existence, that he just basically ended up killing himself. She did technically kill herself, but she killed herself more in a way that was more believable, that it was just through her own actions and just not thinking things through, thanks to metamorphosis, that did her downfall. And it's similar to one of the final villain in Power Rangers Mystic Force, how they just gave him so much power that he just basically ended up exploding, basically ending the same way here. Like, the Queen basically died from overeating essentially, which is a pretty unique way to go out. And I love again that it wasn't a Deus Ex Machina, in the sense that the way Yuha went out, like, he was so overpowered that they just had to rope something in at the last minute in order to bring about his end. And don't get me wrong, I love the final arc of Bleach. It's just that ending, yeah, it is a Deus Ex Machina and it is rushed, but for the most part, the rest of the arc is actually pretty damn good. But we're not talking about Bleach, we're talking about The Promised Neverland. So, okay, a few things to come about from here is that whether or not the next chapter is leading into the actual climax of the series. Like, we're just starting to wrap everything up, and maybe we've only got I'd say another possibly 10 chapters, like 180. That's probably the mark that they're probably going to go with, because really or maybe they will actually go up to 200 because again they still have to get many of the kids from the farms. They still have to get them back to human world, and they still have to take care of Peter Vittori himself as well, and find out exactly what happened to Isabella when she was like, I will accept all consequence. I will accept whatever is dished out to me. So there's a few little things that we've got to wrap up, but really not much for the series, and it seems like we are actually reaching the climax. So maybe 180 to 200, that's probably when the series is actually going to end. So might be June when the series actually officially reaches its end, like the final chapter. And oh boy, when that chapter comes out, that's going to be emotional, because it'll be saying goodbye to the Promised Neverland, but hello to Dr. Stone reviews. But anyway, guys, what did you think of this chapter? Let me know. Like, subscribe, comment, all that jazz. And this will be Lasher Luke signing off. Later, guys!